Well, hello and welcome to Between Two Fans. It is your boy Stevie and Mr. Dan Scholtz, and it's another episode 11 of the podcast. And it's another exciting weekend of sport. So a very interesting weekend of URC action. We saw 2 wins for South African sides, 2 losses for South African sides. A big weekend of Premier League football as well. The title race heating up. Then draw again between Arsenal and City. Liverpool coming away with a win. So things are getting a little bit interesting there. And the IPL is into full swing as well. So plenty to talk about over the next sort of hour. But before we get into that, Dan, are you well?
Superb, Stevie, superb. As you can see, Reds top of the league. I'm absolutely buzzing. I've never enjoyed a 0-0 draw more than I did on Sunday.
And it was a terrible 0-0 draw. We'll talk about that later.
It was a terrible 0-0 draw, but I loved every bit of it. And Stormers clinching. I mean, thank goodness I wasn't watching, so I didn't have to go through the grueling 75 minutes of pain, but managing to get out a win. So, man's buzzing.
Yeah, decent weekend for you. Quite the opposite for me. So, I need to do a bit of a better sporting weekend upcoming. But at least something which I can always make me smile is the predictions that we've got between us. So for those of you who don't know, myself and Dan make 3 predictions every single week, and we've got a running tally. Steve currently sitting with a classic bomb squad bench 6-2 lead at the moment.
6-2 split. I'd say I wish you could make it 7-1, but unfortunately they're not negative points.
Yeah, so I think probably a good thing for you. Yeah,
it might warrant at this point, but
right. So Dan, takes the predictions.
Okay. Well, Stevie, match 1 was actually Man City versus Arsenal, and it's a bit contentious. And I've forgotten kind of exactly what we said last time, but the match ended 0-0 as we previously alluded to. My prediction was 3-1. Yours was 2-0. So both 2-goal advantage. I think, are we calling that evens?
Yeah, I think you have to call that a draw.
Yeah. Then we're going to go Leicester versus Bulls. I mean, we've actually both had howlers, but I've had more of a howler. I've gone Bulls by the end result was Leicester blowout win 47-14 versus the Bulls. We held their own in the first half, but kind of got blown away by the Irish Giants. Essentially, my prediction was Bulls by 3. Yours was Leicester by 7. So, while this does tend to happen on this show, is both of us way off, but one the lesser of the wrong. So, Stevie, congratulations. There is your point there.
There we go.
And then, unfortunately, that goes into an unassailable lead. But I did draw it level on the Sharks versus Edinburgh, where the result was Sharks 23, Edinburgh 13. So Sharks won by 10. My prediction was Sharks by 7. Your Sharks by 5. So I've edged it a little closer. I've stopped the momentum. Most importantly, I think that would have been 3 on the bounce.
It would have been the bounce, yeah.
From. So for me, it's a small one, Stevie. It's a small one. We keep it at the 6-2 split, and I'll slowly start regaining now. I think a little bit of confidence is coming back into me. The sun's coming out here in the UK.
Is it?
You know, this is
changing. Turning of the tides.
Yeah, turning of the tides. You descending there into winter. I'm coming out. I think I've just managed to hit that. You know, Easter weekend. Managed just to pump the brakes on. So it remains 6-2. And let's start off with the rugby, Stevie. A hell of a weekend. And as you said, 2 home wins, 2 away losses for the South African teams.
Yeah, let's just see some of the results here. So as mentioned there, Leinster 47 points to 14, hammering the Bulls. That win a brilliant second half performance there. Dragons beating Zebra 20 points to 13. Benetton 18 points to 14 win against Connacht. Important for them because they've kind of slipped off a little bit. Sharks getting a second win on the bounce.
By the way, absolutely huge.
A big dramatic win there from that side. Sharks continue the momentum, 23 points to 13 win against Edinburgh. Ospreys beat the Lions 36 points to 21. Stormers a late 13 points to 7 with victory. Scarlets big blowout win there for Glasgow Warriors, winning 45 points to 3, and then Munster edging Cardiff 20 points to 15. The final game of the weekend. Let's start at the very beginning. The Bulls on Friday night, first half, very much in the game. pushing Leinster well and keeping them on their toes. And in the second half, well, a bit of a bomb squad coming on from Leinster. I think they made 5 subs at 46 minutes and completely blew balls away.
Yeah.
It was.
I saw Jake White's comments afterwards, kind of essentially saying respectfully to my team, but like kind of what would they expect? Not what were they expecting, but look who came on, like Jamie Gibson Park, Jack Cohen, Jalen Doris, Dan Sheehan. It's a bit of a joke. These are guys who have beaten the All Blacks in an away, test series and stuff like that. Like the pedigree that they have is ridiculous. So, I think fair play to the Bulls for sticking around for that long. But I think a massive point of the game was that red card. Stevie, Currie obviously going over the whitewash, massive cover tackle from Leicester man. I mean, essentially head contact. Comes flying across and just a yellow card. I feel like everyone has unanimously said that it should have been a red. Are you in that park as well?
Yeah, clear as day red. There was, for me, no mitigation. Luke McGrath comes in, his arms are nowhere. There's direct head contact. Massive L's being taken by some of the commentators who suggest that if Kurt Lawrence had just gone in for a dive, then it wouldn't have been an issue. You're sitting there going, so he needs to run away from the defense to avoid being smashed in the head, and it's his fault.
Yeah, that's not how this works.
Some people even try to suggest that he should get a yellow for English with his elbow, and you go back and you look at the contact and you think, no, there was absolutely nothing there. So
I mean, the first thing Currie Lawrence did was actually check that he was okay. That the other player was okay. Like, don't come here with that Currie Lawrence is malicious, because he's the least malicious rugby player on the circuit. But
correct.
That could have changed the game significantly, because at that stage, I think Bulls were leading 14 points to 12.
Yeah.
So a red card there would have made the game very interesting.
Small point as well. There were 40 points to 12, but I think it was 13 point, whatever it was. But it would have actually been a penalty try, and Jan Hussen actually missed the conversion.
True.
So had it been a red card, penalty try, extra 2 points, a man up as well. You look at the final score, 47 points to 14, and you think that it wouldn't have made a difference. But at that stage of the game, whether they would have won, who knows? But it would have been closer. They definitely would have been closer. Could they have come away with a losing bonus point, for example? Those sort of small margins. So I think it was a very significant moment. Makes it very frustrating that although it is funny how so many South African fans who've been calling for, how easily red cards are dished out and they hate like the 20-minute red card and stuff like that. But as soon as that something like this happens, everyone's out ready for the Reds. But it was a red card, and it's been very frustrating looking at like Super Rugby, for example, and how badly they just don't take head contact seriously. And this was one of those grossly poorly managed incidents, which third lines should have gone off for an HIA. It should have been a red card. And it'd be we've got to start finding more consistency with this kind of these kind of clashes, because it's just getting ridiculous now.
Yeah, no, agreed. Stevie, let's get the second South African loss out the way, so you can enjoy the rest of this podcast. Ospreys 36 points to the Lions 21. I bet you did not see this coming after a strong showing at Connacht. What's happened to the Lions? You thought they were in that top 8 race, and now they've just taken themselves down to 11th.
Yeah, look, I mean, and this is the part of it. I mean, we'll look at the table, and it's so incredibly close that one win, one loss, for example, can move you from a 6th to an 11th like that. Literally, they'd be 3 points between 6th and 11th. Yeah. The Lions didn't really pitch up, to be honest. After a couple of tough decisions their way, especially that there was a try that they weren't awarded, which we did score about 2-3 minutes later, which for me was also clear ground and stuff like that. But just couldn't really build momentum. Bit of a fight back towards the end, but I think we started so poorly that we were always kind of sort of chasing the game. And I think that we definitely missed Asenat and Clavicania. Didn't quite have that sort of scrum set of set piece to move to sort of build dominance.
It's a 3-game ban for him, for his red card.
2 if you he does tackle school. Again, and then you look at that tackle
school. Not to attend tackle school, by the way.
Yeah, no, imagine that. In fact, I'd rather just take a week off. Thanks, boys.
Like, I love that. It's just like they give them the option. Like, someone's going to be like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I know how to tackle.
I know how to tackle those shirts, boys. But yeah, I mean, I look at his yellow card. I mean, red card, and yeah, for the Lord is. But I mean, he came up off the line, and he's on his knees. Is upright the tackle, but he's literally on his knees making the tackle. You look at like Luke McGraw, who's standing straight up, like flying in, no arms, no shit, nothing. Like, and he'll play this week. He can play this weekend.
Yeah, Slabakani is all difficult because it in real time, just that hit was huge. But it's kind of because the guys had it on the ground. As he's tapped it, his head isn't up to see what's coming, to almost anticipate it. And he just flies in. I mean, I still think it's a red, to be honest. Slabakani is. But you can understand why he can feel kind of hard done in a certain way, because he has tried to get down. It's just this guy's just tapped the ball and picking it up off the ground. But yeah, flying into the guy's head. I don't know. For me, it's still red, but you can see why it is.
Yeah, I think he gets unlucky because I think if the play's tackling is more upright the tackle, then he hammers him in sort of the chest downwards, and it's one of those like trademark tackles. But the play is quite low to the ground, which is where the head contact is. Which is why I said, into the law, head contact, red card, which is fine if they're a week later, Luke McGraw, who's upright in the tackle, hammers you at the RNC in the head, red card. Yeah. But the inconsistencies that the fans hate.
It's like that's a 5. It was like or 10 meter, space in between, and it was like fast. He shot up versus McGraw running cross field for like 50 meters,
and had every chance to get low.
And then every single chance to anticipate like how to. Obviously, he's going at full tilt, so it's hard to get out the way at the last moment. But still getting your body in a position to be able to make a tackle. At a legal height is
that was an awful tackle.
What's important?
Absolutely, Chembar tackle.
Stevie, so I mean, happy days for me. I was following on my phone, just seeing like I saw 7-0. I was like, oh, cool. Must be 20 minutes into the game or 7-3. I was like 70 minutes into the game. I started sweating buckets a little bit, but a good showing in the end.
Smash and grab, to be perfect. I think.
By good showing, I mean a good result.
Good result. Yeah.
Like having rewatched the game, it just didn't look like it was flowing. I mean, you get so used to the Stormers just kind of scoring tries for fun and often conceding quite a few. So a non-typical low-scoring game in Steven Kitsoff's return. My favorite moment of the match was when it was Kitsoff versus Frans van Haber. Frans van Haber getting the better of him, and I think that's probably must be their first ever competitive scrum against one another.
Yeah, and the only one as well.
Yeah, and just two giants. I mean, Frans van Haber being back in itself is just exciting. But yeah, just two giants. And now some rumors about Kitsoff coming back to the Stormers. All kind of happening in that world. But glad the Stormers got it done, because I think had we not, we would have been sucked into that chaos that is the log between kind of 6th and 8th place. We aren't out and just ahead completely, but it does put us in a good position in 5th as it currently stands. And then
one thing I will say about the game, though, as I think as a Stormers fan, I don't think I'll be madly confident again of silverware this season. I think that game at home, for example, against a struggling Ulster, first half completely outplayed. Ulster so inaccurate with finishing off their chances, had all the dominance, all the opportunities, and I think had they managed to score once or twice more in the first half, I don't think I would have seen the Stormers coming back. So a big result, but I think even John Dobson say that things are just not picking into gear. So we'll talk a little bit about the fixtures this weekend, but I think the Stormers are not quite in the space where they want to be.
It's a team that makes a lot of mistakes. They have moments of that the clinical team of 2-3 or last year before, but just I think too many errors, just that the kind of unforced errors, and I don't know if there's just not enough discipline either in or around. I still get frustrated with Evan Roos. I think he needs to really kind of tighten up around the fringes in terms of, the way that he is going about imposing himself in games and kind of being that dominant person, because now's the time of the season if he wants to be in contention for, any match day 23. So the rest of for the box season, now is the time of the season that you kind of show you can do that, and no better opportunity than this weekend. But let's quickly touch on the the Sharks back-to-back wins for the first time since December 2022 in the URC, getting the win over Edinburgh, 23 points to 13. And Stevie, I'm calling Sia Masuku. The one, nothing else has really changed. They've obviously bolstered their forward pack a little bit, but Sia Masuku, big running fly half, taking the, kind of holding up a defense, I feel like, a little bit. We changed that from like a Butter Chamberlain, Cohen Bosch. As a defense, you're not worried about that person running at you or breaking your lines. They're counterattackers, they're good kicking, but a good win for Sharks, and momentum that they feel they'll be able to take into not only the Challenge Cup, but possibly even next season of the URC. It's kind of just how they just need to finish the season at this point.
Yeah, look, they're all in the Challenge Cup, so this. I think the URC needs to be where, as you mentioned, where they find that momentum, where they find that confidence. I mean, they're so far out of that top 8 race, so top 8 is not on the cards for them. But they need to prove that the Sharks project is going somewhere. So, if they can try and finish strong, maybe try to reel in at Cardiff, finish at 12th, to push. Then, Champions Challenge Cup at the end of the day. That's their only potential avenue for Champions Cup. Yeah. So look, I think they have turned a bit of a corner. I still think they're far from the finished product. But Zakot coming back has definitely made a big difference. They've got a world class front row, which will win penalties against most teams in the world.
Yeah,
I do think that's so strong. No, it's just silly, and the depth that they got as well. In that front row. So they've got 2 proper front rows. They're now being able to field, the pack that they want to. And then you got to see Masuka behind the pack who can make players prepare the space and create opportunities. And we've been calling for it all season. So I don't know. It's just weird how it's taken so long to make the change. But they have made the change, which is the main thing. And it's probably a good time going into this weekend. The EPCR does return, and 2 South African teams in the playoffs. It is the last 16 in both competitions, by the way. So after this, we'll move into quarterfinals, which will be next weekend as well. So very quick turnaround time. Let's look at some of the fixtures here. So in the Champions Cup, it is Harlequins versus Glasgow Warriors, Bulls versus Lyon, Exeter versus Bath, Stormers at home versus La Rochelle, Bordeaux versus Saracens, Leinster versus Leicester, Northampton versus Munster, Toulouse versus Racing, which should be a great game on Sunday there. For the Challenge Cup, it is Gloucester versus Castres, Clermont versus Cheetahs, Brighton versus Lions, Edinburgh versus Bayonne, Ospreys versus Sale, Montpellier versus Ulster, Charles versus Zebra, and Hull versus Connacht. So, Dan, some very, very cool games there. Before we look at them, an interesting post. If you ever want to sort of look at how many South Africans are playing overseas, one of the publications yesterday did all the fixtures, and basically every single fixture bar, I think it was Racing versus Toulouse, they could use a South African player as a ref.
Well, and that's when Sia Khaleesi's just had an operation, right?
No, well, they got Trevor, so so it was Toulouse that didn't have a player for.
Okay,
which I'm pretty sure they do actually. If I look at that squad, but they just decided to go to Anton Dupont.
True, but it's crazy the width and the kind of spread that South Africans go to. We've spoken about it before. You do find it's very scarce that all of this talent doesn't actually come back. Most of you kind of have to make your name within South Africa, and if you want to get into kind of the green and gold jersey before going out wide, but there's still just so much South African talent out there. But Stevie, this weekend, I think for me the ones I'm most excited for, obviously Stormers La Rochelle. I'm still, I know we've spoken about this, but so frustrated with how these fixtures have kind of come out. I just think it's frustrating that we're seeing repeat, mostly because I feel like beating La Rochelle once is big enough. And Stormers had to wait till the last kick of the game with the Money Liebok one from the corner to get it done. And now we need to just try and build ourselves up to do that all again. And then I think the next two ones, I think Northampton, Munster, that's an iconic game. Two teams doing well in their respective kind of domestic leagues, or the URC and the Premiership. I think that's going to be absolutely massive. And then Harlequins, Glasgow Warriors as well. Harlequins seem to be a team that are kind of stepping up one game and then getting blown out the water the next. So you don't really know which one's coming up, and they're going to be up against the Glasgow Warriors, which I don't think very many people would have said would have been second in the URC come this part of the season, at the beginning of the season. So a really, really strong and dominant Glasgow Warriors who had a massive win over the weekend, and versus a Harlequins who also had a big win over the weekend. But I mean, it's going to be tough for I think most of these games you can't really call, right? I don't think there are that many blowout wins. I'd say the one that seems the most obvious is Leinster versus Leicester, and maybe Bulls and Leon. But other than that, hard to call some of these games.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the biggest frustration is how many of these are repeats. I mean, we've already seen Bulls Leon this season. We've seen Stormers La Rochelle. I think we've seen, as well, Northampton. So I'm pretty sure we've even seen Leinster this, but I mean, half these games are
like Exeter Bath, like that happens. You know, this is a game that's seen.
Yeah, not even. I mean, I don't. To a certain degree, I don't mind the inter-country games. I suppose you kind of have to have them eventually, but for me, there's been so many repeats from the group stages that it's just, I don't know how you. I mean, surely I don't know if it's just one sort of rule change. Or you just sit there say that you can't draw somebody from your group just for one round, because it's just, to be going into the first round of playoffs, the first opportunity to play a different team, and you're not. It's just, that frustrates me. So, but still some great games. I think, I'm really looking forward to that Toulouse Racing game on Sunday. I think that should be a great watch. The Challenge Cup's going to be interesting because I think, you look there, and I think probably a bit more straightforward in terms of who the favourites are. Sharks at home against Zebra. They've wrapped up with that draw, and this is, to be fair, Zebra have beaten in the season, but Sharks at home, and Zebra kind of dropped off where Sharks
not against Masuku.
Exactly.
Zebra have not played Masuku.
Yeah, the Cheetahs going to West Clermont. It'll be interesting to see how they go there.
Come on, the Cheetahs.
I love riding on them. Ruan Pino in the squad.
They've got to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a decent squad that they sent over there. Open Hodges involved. Ruan Pino obviously there. Just Kate captain it, so hopefully he'll have a good game there. Khalifa Murba plays to watch there, so it's a decent side that they've sent over. And then the Lions, probably the most difficult of the games, have to go away to Benetton. Never easy in Treviso. It's a game that they can win, but it's going to be a tough one. I think that along with Montpellier, Ulster, probably the two games of the weekend from a Challenge Cup perspective.
And Park Connacht, to be fair, I think that'll be also a strong one. But it's very hard to predict this Lions. Benetton won both Lions and Benetton been a little bit up and down recently. Benetton obviously just getting the last minute victory this weekend in the URC versus the Lions, who were down by the Ospreys. So but then again, the week prior it was the reverse result, Lions getting a victory and Benetton taking a loss. So not really sure which way it could go. I think that home ground advantage is going to play a massive impact though, but it'll be exciting to see who is up this time next week, as you say, back-to-back weeks of the competitions. So single leg, come straight knockout. It's like a FA Cup from here on out. So
and if you guys could just do like everybody a favor, win the game and get a home quarter final. So I'm actually in Cape Town next weekend. So
I'm encouraging the boys, and I hope that your prediction reflects that as well, Stevie. Or maybe not. Put your money where your mouth is. Put your money where your mouth is.
Maybe a reverse psychology there.
And who I'm trying to remember who the Stormers would play if we win that. I think It's the Harlequins versus Glasgow winners, but I stand to be corrected on that. But Stevie, in other fringe kind of rugby news, massive Louis Rees-Zammit picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL. A lot of noise around this. He'll be a running back, I believe. This is me speaking about a sport that I've
running back / wide receiver apparently is where he's
and apparently the Kansas City coach, people are likening him to a Rassie Erasmus, very innovative, and they are playing around with even passing the ball not just once but twice or three times within a phase of play, which is apparent. People are speculating how they can see Louis Rees-Zammit used as a receiver and then, giving little offloads. I don't know if the Sonny Ball Williams pop is going to come into the NFL anytime soon, but first of all, just big up to Louis Rees-Zammit for taking that risk, essentially, where a lot of people kind of just wrote him off, and now he's got a 3-year deal. Will he play? We don't know, but massive respect to the man.
I think it's a cool crossover. I'd be interested to see. We always talk about the differences in the game, and if you see somebody like Louis Rees-Zammit who can make the move across there, and if he does play, for example, then it opens for more crossover. And a lot of people are saying, because World Rugby posted about it, and it was like, how could you post about it? This is so bad for the rugby game, and it is a big loss for the rugby game. But I think, the world's becoming a small place. I think there's going to be so much more crossover between different sports, between different brands and stuff like that. I enjoy something like this. I think it's something a bit new, something a bit cool. I think there's no doubt he's a big loss for the rugby game. But will this drive interest into the NFL?
He'll be back, no doubt.
Oh yeah, no, he's not going to go play NFL for 10 years. I suppose money-wise, maybe he will.
End of his 3-year career, I think, takes him to the 2027 World Cup in Australia. So could maybe even feature in that. Might be a bit of a push. But he'll certainly.
He's so young. He can play the 2031. So he can go there, in some bank. And then come back for Wales and go play a British and Irish Lions tour, go get a World Cup.
Absolutely. And then other news, Stevie, Sam Whitelock retires, the absolute veteran of an All Black, retiring from club rugby, youngest ever All Black to reach 100 caps at 29 years of age. I think 156 international caps by the end of it. Just an absolute beast. So we wish him farewell in his retirement.
One of the most clutch moments in World Cup history. Hey, the turnover against I was in the stadium there, and I can tell you right now, there were Irish media who I think were willing to climb over that fence to start beating him up.
Yes, just those phases. It must have been like the 40-something phase. That the Irish are going through, and just unrelenting, and then bang, Sam Whitelock at what felt like 45 years old, defending all 4 people. Just cheers. Sorry, you are not getting to that ball.
No, and just and such a professional. Had the privilege of speaking to him after that game, in the mix zone afterwards, and just quite softly spoken, very humble, very. First thing he sort of said was, he just wanted to contribute. He just wanted to be in and around, and he's willing to do whatever he can just to get this group over. So, one of the most likable guys in rugby. And came from a Springbok fan. He's put us through a lot. He's been part of very good All Black sides who've decimated us.
Have not brought joy to our faces when we see them on the team sheet.
Yeah, and if you look at his record, he's won everything you could possibly win in rugby: World Cups, Super Rugbies, Bledisloe Cups. It's just it's ridiculous what he's won. So one of the all-time greats.
Yeah. And Stevie, let's get into the football that's happened this week. So massive swing in the title race. I mean, any result that isn't a win for Liverpool, Man City, or Arsenal is a massive swing, because that's just how close this title race is. But let's go through a couple of the results from the weekend. Big ones were Newcastle beating West Ham 4-3. Burnley holding on against Chelsea 2-2. Nottingham Forest getting necessary points to kind of avoid the relegation. The 1-1 draw against Palace. Fulham coming from behind to take a point off Sheffield, who looked like they were going to finally get 3 points. Tottenham coming from behind to get Luton to keep themselves in the top 4 race. That was dismantled after a draw with West Ham last night. Man United thinking they've sealed it with a 96th minute goal.
That would have been the most ludicrous result of all time. That if you ever looked up a definition of a smash and grab, that would have been it. Because
no, you didn't deserve that at all.
Ivan Toney's had as many touches in the United box that United did at the Brentford box.
Really?
Yeah.
No, it was a well one-sided affair, and Brentford haven't quite managed to kind of get the season rolling. I don't think they're not really getting dragged into that conversation of relegation, but they're just kind of not quite critical enough. But I think you're actually, as much as you lost those 3 points or lost 2 of those 3 points in the 99th minute, I think you can actually be okay with the 1-1 draw. But then Liverpool coming from behind 2-1 versus Brighton. Oh, the stress. I'm losing life, Stevie. I'm losing years of my life watching this Liverpool team go 1-0 down in every single game.
Yeah.
But it proved pivotal to take them top of the table with Man City and Arsenal drawing 0-0. Self-proclaimed, Stevie, most boring 0-0 you've ever
terrible.
watched.
I think I saw a tweet that summed it up, which said if somebody had never watched football and you said, no, sit down and watch the top 2 teams in the league right now, in the best league in the world, they would have gone, okay, I'm never watching football again.
Yeah.
Two teams, too scared. It was one of those things, if they'd walked out.
They were nervous.
And Arteta and Guardiola said, well, should we just take on a 0-0 draw? They would have done it. Both 2 teams, too scared to overcommit, too scared to go for it. And I think, it was really frustrating me. I thought it was a while. I mean, Arsenal fans celebrated it massively, which I thought was weird. Because I think that Arsenal.
I mean, it's bigger for them. It keeps them in the hunt.
And 100%. Because now City are 4 points behind Liverpool, so now they need Liverpool. They need other results to go their way. Arsenal obviously also need to, but one draw, for example, and an Arsenal back level with Liverpool. So it didn't mean more to them, but I just also think from an Arsenal perspective, these are the games that they had to win to show their title contenders. And this is now the second time where they haven't been able to go out and get that result. It does make the run interesting. A couple of interesting games coming up. Both Arsenal, I think, and United and Liverpool both play United. So it's about the closest thing we've got to the title race is potentially maybe influencing it.
But no, the run-ins are all fairly similar. Arsenal probably was a little bit more difficult than City. Liverpool, I mean, all the teams are still in Europe. So it's not like they can just abandon ship on other competitions. City are still in the only one still in the FA Cup. But if you look at Opta's stats, which I'm loving the reading, I've been trying not to get too ahead of myself because it reads that Liverpool now are outright favourites of 47% chance of winning the league, with Man City second favourites, 33% chance, and Arsenal is third with an 18% chance.
Arsenal fans must get so happy that kind of stat. They're 2 points behind the league, 1 point ahead of City, and yet they're less than half as likely as to win the league as City are.
They also have a 50% or 49.6% chance of coming third as well, while currently sitting in second. So it's also it is disrespectful things from Opta, but hey,
Opta. If there's one stats company you don't want to take out, it's Opta.
Well, if you say that, Stevie, I am ready to almost celebrate a Premier League.
Football is played on the field.
Yeah, football's played on the field, exactly. Still 9 games to go, and a big games this weekend. Man City Villa. Unfortunately,
that's today.
Ollie Watkins, or unfortunately, unless you're a Manchester City fan, but that should be a really big game. Chelsea, Man United, Stevie, typically a massive game, but not really much to play for. between the teams. I mean, I did see from Opta's stats that Man United have a 1.4% chance of making top 4. So,
well, there you go, dude. I'll take those odds. We've got a game in hand on Villa and Spurs, so don't you stress about that 11-point margin. That'll soon be an 8-point margin.
I mean, Spurs taking a draw last night versus West Ham. So maybe that 1% could have become 2 or 3. Who knows?
Well, as I said, if we do beat Chelsea tomorrow, Villa go down to City, then it means that we can close the gap a little bit there. Got to, I think, within 7 points of them. So, yeah, look, to be honest, the weird thing is, if United get back-to-back victories here, Villa playing Brentford this weekend, the Brentford play anything like that, they could drop points. Spurs have got some massive games coming up. They've got to play, I think they have to play all 3 teams in that top 4. And so it's very small, but
Champions League could be top 5 teams this season with the new format. The new and depending on how kind of it all draws out by the end, which we can't be exactly sure when it will be 4 or 5 teams going through the Champions League, but it does open that door a little bit more.
Yeah, well, it's just annoying because if we had won over the weekend, we're sitting on 9 points behind with game in hand. So you win that game in hand and you're 6 points behind. And at 6 points with 9 games to go, you can overturn that kind of deficit. Yeah, but it's the standard thing. Every single time United's got an opportunity to try and close a small gap and try and do something, but it's a bit of a rightful season. I mean, for example, when it comes to injuries, Lissandro Martinez and Victor Lindelof was out for a month. So United we just can't compete with what injuries had.
It is a bit of a shambles of a season, to be honest. Like, I think you guys just kind of need to draw to a close at this stage. Maybe even get up with an FA Cup, maybe. But then it's also going to be a shaky one this evening for Arsenal versus Luton. Luton obviously scrambling for in a relegation battle versus the title challenger. Those are always good games when they kind of start to get cagey. You just don't know which way they could go. And then tomorrow, Sheffield, Liverpool. I'm hoping that Liverpool just dismantle Sheffield and don't even give them a sniff. But obviously, the same scenario, team trying to get out of relegation versus a team going for the league. And it's just sometimes that your log position becomes very irrelevant at this part of the season because there are bigger things at play. And you actually don't, as long as you want to be playing actually more like a mid-table team.
You want to be playing against your Brightons, your Wolves, even your Chelseas, teams who are there, they're safe from relegation. They can't make anything. They kind of just flipping along to the end of the season.
There's no repercussions to a bad result, essentially. But we've got a midweek game week. We've got this weekend some exciting ones, most notably Brighton Arsenal. Brighton kind of falling in that category in the middle, not much to play for, but have been playing well recently. Man United Liverpool, Stevie. You boys are hosting us again, a repeat of that recent unbelievable FA Cup game, and then a big one, Spurs versus Forest, top 4 battle versus relegation battle, and Forest were looking very good last night. Ended up winning that game 3-1, and it could have been many more. They got their tails up, and they obviously, having just taken a 4-point deduction, are looking to kind of get the ball rolling and make sure that they don't let Luton kind of bring them down into that relegation battle. But lots of Premier League at the moment, which is delightful after that international break.
Yeah, no more international breaks. So we're now really into the Champions League returns next week. So we're into the business end of the season. This is where it all gets very exciting. This games are coming thick and fast. And one of those things where you step up now, any sort of momentum you lose, proves obviously for relegation, for title challenge, for top 4. So it's one of those games where now there's no such thing as a game that means nothing. Every game now, if you're in that top 4 battle, if you're in the relegation scrap, if you're in Europe or FA Cup, you can't afford to step up.
And nothing's decided, which is nice. Often at this stage of the season, you kind of know the champion. Maybe who's getting relegated. There's a top 4 race. I guess it's mostly between 2 teams. Maybe Man United can bring themselves into that conversation. relegation battle is still wide open, and there's a 3-way charge for the Premier League. So it means that almost all games there, as you said, there's something to be played for, which is just exactly what you want and what you love about this part of the season. But Stevie, let's get into the cricket, and it's been another week of IPL. We are only 16 games into a total of 74. We were just discussing before this. I mean, it is just a monster of a tournament. There's just so much cricket. But don't worry, we understand that you lot can't always keep up with that. So you have Stevie and I just to give you a recount of kind of, what's happening over the lay of the land of the IPL. And who's doing what. Just a quick snapshot of the standings at the moment. Rajasthan Royals are 3 from 3 sitting at the top with KKR, who are having only played 2, but sitting in second position. Every other team having taken at least 1 loss. And then right at the bottom, you have Mumbai Indians doing a classic start to the season that they do every single year, and taking a couple losses. So they're 0 from 3. A lot of drama there with Hardik Pandya taking the reins from Rohit Sharma, getting booed in the stadium. Just a bit of a toxic environment going on at the Mumbai Indians. But Stevie, the Mumbai Indians, man, we'd like to speak about. Quinn Mapaka, 2 different games. Makes his IPL debut, the 17-year-old, gets absolutely dismantled. A really horrible, horrible debut. In a record-setting innings, the highest innings ever in an IPL, and Quinner going for just a bag load of runs, singles, 50-something in the end, no wickets, and really kind of a baptism of fire. He has come back in the next game.
Careful. You're going to upset people if you say that.
We will get into that conversation, but let's jump into it now. Dale Steyn tweets. Stevie, talk to us.
Yeah, look, so it's been an interesting one, and I've kind of sort of stayed out of it for most of it, but because I can kind of understand the outrage, I can also understand why some people are saying it wasn't that hectic. But basically what happened is that on the back of Parker being, I think it was after his first 2 overs, and Travis Head was absolutely battering everyone. And he came out with a tweet, and I'll quote the tweet saying, Mapaka realizing the difference between under 19 and the Pro League baptism of fire. Now, this has now completely exploded, and South African fans, in fact, cricket fans in general are very, very upset about it, basically saying that, he's 17, he doesn't need to...
South Africa's best ever bowler.
It doesn't, bringing him down, adding to the critics, for example, was never really... the follow-up tweet, which came a day later, sort of saying, I woke up feeling for Quinn Parker today, but I know he's surrounded by some amazing people at MI, and he's going to be absolutely fine. His first experience, regardless of results or performance, will still be the most amazing experience he's ever had. At just 17, it's only upwards from here. Well done, young man. Everybody basically saying that, when you start tweeting that basically a day later, it's basically damage control. Yeah. So it's an interesting one, for example, Dwayne Bravo came out with a post on Instagram with a long thing saying...
support for Mapaka.
Yeah.
To be fair.
All the teams came out...
Not just the next day, on the day of as well.
On the day of, as it was happening, like Dwayne Bravo coming out and saying, congratulations, young man, this is superb, 17 years old. So, he's not done himself a world of good, Chaz Dale Steyn. I mean, that tweet's been reviewed over 2 million times. And a lot of South Africans very, very upset about it.
Yeah, it's kind of where the flippancy of Twitter meets like a serious conversation, right? Because a tweet, you kind of just throw it out there because it's true, right? It was a baptism of fire. Like he got up there and he kind of was in the deep end and he just got tucked into. Like he got bashed around in a game that it wasn't just him getting bashed around. Every bowler was getting bashed around.
Yeah.
He just happened to get the worst of it. He's obviously like the shiny new toy that everyone's looking at. The player of the tournament and the under-19 World Cup, gets a contract with Mumbai. people are going to be watching when he plays, and then when it goes that wrong, it's like it's easy to put it down to not enough experience and stuff like that. And there's a possibility that that was the case. So I mean, I don't see a massive issue with what Dale said. I don't think he's the type of guy that just writes off South African talent in general. He always seems to be nurturing them. And you look at his involvement in both of Sunrise's Eastern Cape's wins. He seems to be very close with the players and very relatable character. He's not like this military sergeant person. He's a very laid back guy, and I guess it's just deciding as a previous international and probably massive role model to Quena, or where you want to stand between being that person and just someone who's speaking their mind, because he's just speaking their mind, which is probably what most people were thinking. But from the perspective of this role model, it seems that now you're pulling this kid down with you. That's how I see it. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, I think it was, as you said, I think given the nature of his following, the nature of who he is and the nature of the situation, I think it was probably quite irresponsible. Again, from a pure factual point of view, he wasn't wrong. Some people have blown it up a bit too much. People have turned into a bit of a racial issue, saying that they would never have said this about Brave and stuff like that. And I think that's when you start reaching. It's just. Yeah, I think that I think he needs to understand the voice, and also that it's Twitter. You can't convey tone. You can't tell people how you meant it, for example. So people and you put it up for their own interpretation. So I think it was a bit of a need as well. I don't think he needed to put it out there. I think if he wants to put it out there, I think he could have put it out there a bit better. And I think the problem as well is that there was no response till a day later. So it did kind of come across as that it was a bit of damage control. He just once tweeted. So I think some people have sort of lashed onto it, and now is a sort of a bit of first attack on Dale. So I think that it just shows you how, what you think might be an innocent tweet, and just sort of saying like, this is it, can blow up. I think
also people are looking for a reason to support Quena Mapaka, as we all are, because no one wants to see a young kid like have that type of experience. Although with that being said, it's probably going to benefit him a lot in the long run, but it's hard to see that in the kind of heat of the moment. And when looking to support someone like Quena Mapaka, you're looking at the person who didn't support them, that being Dale Steyn, this big figure. So my way of supporting Quena Mapaka is saying, Dale Steyn, you are talking nonsense, like screw you, who do you think you are? And there was, as we said, there was a hell of a lot of support for Quena Mapaka, which was like around the whole cricketing community, not just South African.
And the IPL teams, as I said, Bravo, other cricketers, Kevin Peterson, a lot of people getting behind him, and as they should. I mean, he's the most exciting player, young bowler in the world right now, exactly. And for good reason.
And what everyone was worried about is that he doesn't get picked again, and then that haunts him, right? Yeah. He doesn't do that. He comes back the next week, gets given the opening ball, the first over again, and manages to get a wicket of Jaiswal, a big wicket. So gets the Nato wicket, the monkeys off the back. Now, hopefully, we can just continue to see him throughout the season and a couple more wickets, because there's just nothing more exciting than someone in that opening season where a lot of these players don't know him. They don't know what he's bowling. He's quite, he's a typical kind of left arm in swinger, but he's the new kid on the block. It's like, what is this kid's ceiling? And the IPL is the best place to kind of see that.
Yeah, and the answer for what his ceiling is he really wants to be. He's got the talent to be the best bowler in the world. It's a bold thing to say at 17, but you look at him and you just think he's bowling in the 140s, almost mid 140s, at he's 17 years old. He'll only get quicker. You look at Nandre Berger, who took a while, but is now bowling mid 150s and get up to 153, 154. And it's taken him until 27, 28 to get there. You look at Quena where he is now, and he's got a repeatable action. It's not an action which I think will place tremendous strain on his body. It is fairly orthodox. Phenomenal Yorker, can move the ball both sides. I think he's going to be a terrific test player. For the 4 tests he'll get to play his entire career. So yeah, look, I think I said so. I think it's a lesson learned for Dale. I think that he'll I think probably hopefully learn from this, understand
I think
that people look to him. Yeah, it is Twitter.
People forget about it in a week, and it's fine. But
Dale will be the bowling coach in like 3-4 years. They'll be playing for the Pro Tours. They'll post our selfie together, and they'll be like, "Oh, look, there we go, and off we go." But there's also some other South Africans because we can talk about this all day. And I want to focus a little bit about the bowling talent we've got. Now, Gerald Coetzee has been expensive, but he generally is. He's a wicket-taking player. So he's gotten 3 wickets at the moment. But I want to talk a little about Nandre Burger and Kigiso Abada. Nandre Burger, almost a surprise purchase in that IPL auction, and how good has he been? 5 wickets at 9.1 from a run rate perspective. But I mean, just bowling absolute rockets. I think he's the second fastest bowler in the IPL this season. Has bowled a 153 ball so far.
Speaking of left arm in swingers,
we've been waiting. I mean, he's always been a talented bowler, but I think he's just added that extra 5 to 10 kilometers of pace in the last few years. At 142, 143, you're brisk. 150 is a different demon.
Yeah,
you get up to that 90 miles plus
with a bit of bounce at someone's eye at like their eye line. It's so difficult to come up against, and especially maybe at international level, a lot of them have faced that. It's still not common. 150 k's an hour isn't common still, so it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be ugly to face. And
so good to see pace back in South Africa. I mean, for years we had Rabadi. He was the only player who could really get up to sort of 145, 146. Lungi Gidi, after his injury, struggled to get back to those sort of speeds. And now you think, Nokia's taking a bit of a break from South Africa, but you've got Gerald Coetzee who can get up to 150. Nokia gets up to 150. Nandre Burger gets up to 150. So you could have an attack, for example, of a Burger, Abada, Nokia, or a Coetzee, where Abada is the third slowest, third fastest in that lineup. So very, very good place to be from a South African bowling perspective, because raw pace is back. Nokia's back with a wicket as well. Abada's bowling really well. Not going for many runs, taking wickets. And the batting, well, I watched Quinton last night, and he looked back to close to his best. Faf du Plessis struggling a little bit at the moment. Looked good last night before throwing his wicket away. Stubbs has had a nice innings, though. Rivers struggling a little bit as well. But 100 class, the best T20 player in the world.
He is the best T20 player in the world. I mean, what he has become over the last 3 seasons is just ridiculous. He is literally went from like a lower Albany, Eastern Cape, like farmer hack around player who just used brute force, and now he does the exact same thing but can just time the ball better than anyone else in the world. He is just so strong. He gets into position so early. He's just there's no target that's too high, you feel. There's no run rate that's too high for him to chase. Coming in at 5, he kind of knows his position. He's generally coming in the second half of an innings. He can build as well if he wants to, but he's just, at a strike rate of 219, obviously the one big innings of 80 not out, so he's 167 runs after his 3 innings.
He's the third highest scorer so far.
Third highest scorer, and no hundreds yet in this IPL. But just, really, really good. And he is going to be massive for not only this season's IPL, but the Proteas in the T20 World Cup. But interesting to see what kind of, out of these batsmen, who's going to kind of, put their name in the hat for the T20 World Cup. Obviously, we've mentioned Klaasen. He's at the top of the post for South Africa. Quinton, with that, takes his total run tally to 139 runs. Miller, one decent score of 44 not out, but also only 73 runs over the innings. Markram
looked very, very good in that 44, though. It looked like he was probably back to his best.
Getting back to it, we're not sure. We haven't quite seen the kind of Pete Miller that we're used to as consistently as we once had. So I'm hoping that this IPL can, get that form back. As you said, Markram high score 42, only also 77 runs over 3 innings. A bit of a slower on the strike rate front, only 128. And you mentioned Stubbs and Brevets, they're both getting scores in the 40s. So, I mean, it's going to be probably at least the top 4 run scorers from this IPL are going to be guaranteeing their spots in the T20 South African T20 team. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Obviously, only really 3 games in for each of them. So I think it's just
30 days.
Exciting to see. But Stevie, in some non-IPL news, we have seen Ben Stokes opt out of the T20 World Cup, chosen not to represent England there to essentially focus on test matches and actually being an all-rounder. I wonder if this is heat from a poor batting performance essentially in India from him, and being someone who was previously, really a batting all-rounder, but contributed significantly with the ball, to now going into series. I think he only bowled 5 overs and not having a good time with the bat. Obviously, he's the captain. Do you feel that he feels that he needs to be contributing with the ball and just can't handle the schedule? I mean, we saw him retire from the ODI, from England ODIs, and then came back for that World Cup. Wasn't a very fruitful World Cup for England, but how do you see this decision from Stokes?
Look, I don't think that he is the be or end all, especially when it comes to T20 side. I mean, we all know the quality he has. But he's withdrawn from the IPL. He's withdrawn from T20 World Cup. And I think if he's going to sit there in the front and say Test cricket is the most important brand, and he's Test captain, for example, then he needs to make it his priority.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think he has to bowl. He's a phenomenal batsman, but he doesn't come off enough to be an out-and-out, number 4, for example.
Yeah.
He when he bowls, he suddenly becomes one of the best all-rounders in the world, if not the best all-rounder in the world.
Yes.
Alongside the likes of, for me, like Cameron Green, who I think is going to very much be in that conversation for a long time to come. But yeah, I think as I said, baseball, and they do play so many tests, so it's not like you're never going to see a South African player focus on tests because we don't play enough of them. But they do play enough. It is financially rewarding for them. So I think it's the right decision for him. I don't think he would be. I think he'd make a difference, obviously, to the England T20 side. But I think that there's enough depth in the England white ball setup that they can cope quite easy without him. So yeah, and all in all, I think it's the right decision from him because he needs to get back to playing cricket at his best ability. To have failed in India would have been a big question mark against him in terms of can he make it as a batsman type thing. So, yeah, I think it's the right decision. Be cool.
Yeah, agreed. Stevie, let's wrap up the show with the predictions of the week. We're going to go 3 different fixtures. We're going to go, and all of us, we're skin in the game for all 3 fixtures. First of all, Stormers La Rochelle. Stormers hosting La Rochelle at home in the Champions Cup. We've got the second match, which is going to be Benetton versus the Lions. Lions are away, playing in Italy in the Challenge Cup. And then we have got the Premier League, some would argue the biggest rivalry, Man United hosting Liverpool in Manchester. This is actually one of the games where it doesn't even matter if no one's playing for anything. It's just going to be huge.
Yeah.
Stevie, let's start off with Stormers La Rochelle. You will be going first because you didn't win this week, but you won last week, so I'm carrying that over.
Right. Okay. You're not going to like this. Maybe it's a bit of reverse psychology, but I think La Rochelle take this. I think they're a side that this is their competition. They're back-to-back winners.
You're just trying to coax the Stormers into hearing you say this and to get them.
That's what I said. A little bit of reverse psychology, But they kind of stuck through to the playoffs, finishing third in the group. Although to be fair, you only have 4th place progress. But I think the Stormers at the moment have been a shadow of themselves, and I still haven't seen enough from them to really convince me otherwise. So I think that La Rochelle will send a strong side, and I think they'll get the job done. So I'm going to go La Rochelle by 5.
Okay, I think it's fair. I'm worried just because I know how clutch La Rochelle are, and it's not that they've had an unbelievable season, and Stormers also haven't had an unbelievable season. But I'm definitely going to have to back the boys. I think it's going to be. I'm going to go kind of a repeat of the last one, which essentially won in the last minute. I'm going to go Stormers by 2. Very
nice,
very
nice and close.
close game. I think if Storms get it done, it's going to have to be very tight. I'm going to back my boys. I think they're going to be a couple more tries in this one, and I can't stand to. A couple of weeks ago, you backed Stormers by more points than me, and you got a point, and I can't let that happen ever again. Match 2 is Benetton versus Lions, and I'll go first for this one. Stevie, I think the Lions are going down. I think they're losing to Benetton. I think they have too much momentum.
That's just spiteful because I didn't back your boys.
No, well, I mean. Yes, but
no, yes, but not the point.
No, but yes, not the point. The point being is that Benetton are just unreal. They have just they're such. I think at home they are a different beast. I think Lions away aren't nearly as strong as they are at home, and I think Benetton go in with just a lot more momentum. And to be honest, I get the sense that Benetton wanted more, and probably not something that you want to hear, but I think they've had a really good season. It's sliding a little bit in the URC, but this is like a big opportunity to prove themselves on the European stage. So I'm going to go Benetton by 4.
Benetton by 4. I'm going to go Lions by 3. I got about my boys. Let Nahama cook.
I think he's a big hope. He's kind of one of your only hopes that he has an unbelievable game. And it will be open. To be fair, it will be open.
No, I think there'll be tries. I think it'll ebb and flow. The Lions, I think, are a side that can come back towards the end. So I think as long as they're in the game with 15 minutes to go, I back them. It frustrates me how they don't really see off games, but if they're in with a shot, they've got a really strong finish in them. So I hope that comes down to some good conditioning. I think we're missing Henke van Dijk a lot, and I think we'll miss Hassanat and Kabakanya at scrum time. But a lot of players are. Yeah, I think it's small things. Marius Lowe for me as a player, when he plays well, the Lions play well. So I think if he has a good game this weekend, Kieran Hall knows where I'll score a try. We've got enough to beat Benetton. It's just whether we decide to pitch up or not.
Yeah. And then the final game, Man United versus Liverpool, we had this exact same prediction for the FA Cup. I was a couple minutes away from getting that prediction right, but you ended up getting it right with Man United winning that one 4-3 in extra time a couple weeks ago. Stevie, what are you going for this time? Another 4-3?
Draw, actually. No, I want to go with a draw.
Okay. That means mentally you've lost it already, but continue.
No, well, you tell me which is the worst, which is the bigger result for the two teams. If you guys withdraw, we draw. If a draw means nothing to us. But for you, that could be the title gone. I don't know. I think we keep predicting these big. Well, in theory, this is a 1 versus 6. But as you mentioned, the derby takes kind of the log position out of it. Yeah. I think there'll be goals. But I think both of our defenses actually look quite vulnerable. As you mentioned, you guys keep conceding early. Yeah. So I reckon ball court 2-2.
Wow. Okay. I mean, it'll be an unbelievable game if it ends 2-2.
Yeah.
I will be incredibly frustrated if it does end that way. I don't think it's always hard to predict a clean sheet for any of the teams in one of these games. But I'm going to do exactly that. I think it's going to be 2-0 to Liverpool. I think hopefully our defensive boys will go out the window against kind of a Man United team that you don't know which is going to show up, right? Like the way you guys galvanized to come back against us in the FA Cup is just worlds apart from the Man United you can see on a week-to-week basis in the Premier League. And you just really don't know who's going to be there on the day. So I think it's, very plausible for you guys to score 2 goals, but I think our attack and midfield are kicking into gear. I think Salah is going to be on the score sheet as per in these types of games. Hopefully with his shirt off celebrating, and I'm hoping just keeping us on track towards what would be an unbelievable Premier League, but still 9 games to go, so I can't get ahead of myself, although
Correct.
I am.
Correct.
But Stevie, that brings us to the end of episode 11. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was always fun. There's lots of sport happening at the moment. I mean, I enjoy the IPL because it means I've always just something to watch. I just wish it started an hour later. Because by every single time, by the time I like settle in after like gym or whatever, it's like 8 o'clock and it's finished. Wish it started at 6 and I can catch the second innings. But it's nice to have sport every single day. We've got lots of rugby this weekend, playoff rugby as well. So lots of jeopardy there. Premier League. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about the second biggest race of the year from a running Canada point of view in South Africa. We'll talk a little bit about the Two Oceans, which is happening next weekend, which is always fun to watch. Currie has gone below the record the last 2 runs she's had down there. So it'll be interesting to see if she could push it as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Something a little bit different. Every week we try and add a bit of a different sport to the schedule. Not much happening this week, unfortunately, but next week we'll have that on the agenda. So Dan, have a good week.
Thank you.
Good luck for this weekend. You're going to need it.
Fingers crossed. Could be very happy or very sad.
Correct. You know, from my perspective, I hope you've had the weekend I had this last weekend, this coming weekend.
Well, we'll see who comes out. As I said, I think the tide's turning in the predictions, and I think you're on the ropes, bro. I've got you exactly where I want you at that 6-2.
Right, okay. Well, we're 6-2 splits at the moment. We'll see if that changes next week. People, please make sure that you subscribe, like, follow, wherever you're listening to this or watching this. The full episode goes on to Fair Sports. You can stream it on all your favorite audio platforms. Keep an eye on some clips and stuff like that across the various Forever Sports channels as well. Have a good week, and we will see you guys all next time. Thanks a lot.